Hey, welcome in.
Welcome to the Arrowhead Addict podcast.
We are here coming to you live.
The Kansas City Chiefs are going to the Super Bowl. You only win a Super Bowl 2 times every 5 years, right?
Oh!
The warm-up act is over. Let's bring in Melissa Etheridge, massive Chiefs fan. Melissa,
Super Bowl champion, 2-time Pro Bowler, and Trent Green. Trent Green, how you doing?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
And he picked it up! He picked it up! He's gonna score!
and we'll see you next week. But until then, as always, go Chiefs.
Welcome. This is Wacky Wednesday here on the Arrowhead Addict channel. I'm Adam Best. Sterling Holmes, my normal co-host, is out today. So I'm back with the old chief, Dr. John Best, my father, and producer Richard will try to keep us on the rails. I don't know if he'll succeed. Dad, how are you doing? How are you surviving the off season?
I'm doing great. Actually, I'm out in Phoenix playing golf with some other doctors and going to meet with some of the brass of the Arizona Cardinals this evening for dinner. And as a tribute to Andy, I'm wearing a koi fish shirt. You know, Andy loves these wild shirts, and if Andy can wear them, anybody can, and that's kind of a nice thing for people to do.
I don't know, man. And Andy has an aura to him, you know. But you do too. You're rocking it. I like it. Everyone that watches the show knows that I am not against the loud shirt. It's funny that you're wearing the exciting shirt today, and I'm wearing the boring shirt. But hey, you got to make your guests look good. Before we jump into our segments, there's a couple of quick news nuggets I want to hit with you. And yes, this is a new backdrop. It is like a 40% operational Death Star, but I am here in Arrowhead West, which of course is Los Angeles, not to be confused with the other Arrowhead West, which is Las Vegas. So new studio. But let's jump into a couple of quick news nuggets. The first bit here is the Chiefs are reportedly the favorite to play the Chargers in Brazil in week 1. Dad, are you a fan of the international games? Do you have any interest in going to this game in Brazil? And what implications does it have for the start of the Chiefs season? Is it something that could set them back?
First of all, I have no interest in going to Brazil. I think they just had some riots down there recently. I think it might be interesting. Would we be sacrificing our home game against the Chargers? That's my concern right there. The other thing is,
well, we already know the Chargers are playing there, so it kind of sounds like the Chargers are the host. I'm not sure on that, but
well, that's bad because I was going to come out and visit you when the Chargers play the Chiefs. Now that you're in Hollywood West,
Arrowhead West. Also West Hollywood, though.
Yeah. I don't know if these opening games are good. You know, Philadelphia they went out of the country to play Green Bay. They won the game, but they wound up being 2-2. And I wonder if there wasn't a little fatigue, jet lag, whatever. So I don't know if it's a good deal to play your opening season game in a foreign country, particularly when your team just had a 15-1 or 16-1 season.
I don't know. I don't think it's that big of a deal. You know, the Eagles also went to Brazil last year. They wound up being the Super Bowl champions. The Green Bay Packers won something like 13 games, had a terrific season themselves, even though they fell short in the playoffs. I don't think that was because of Brazil. I think that's because they're a well-oiled machine that just doesn't have enough top-end talent. And for all our Brazilian watchers and listeners out there, I would love to go to Brazil personally. I mean, the beaches, the food, the nightlife sounds fantastic. This would be a cool place to play. And I think we have to kind of step back and reflect where the Chiefs are as a franchise. 20 years ago, countries and networks would not be clamoring for the red and yellow to, to be in their country, to be on their slot. So the Chiefs are in demand in a way they've never been before, and that's exciting. And that takes us to our next tidbit.
Before you go further, Adam.
Yeah.
Rio de Janeiro is a great destination, and a very famous song from when I was a kid, "The Girl from Ipanema." We could play that at halftime of the Chiefs game. So they have a lot of good-looking women down there. And,
Stan Getz, right? A great jazz song.
Yeah,
I love it. So
I play it on my trombone. Maybe I'll have to make a guest appearance.
Oh boy, we get the trombone on here. Our viewership's gonna plummet, man. I'm just kidding. He's actually pretty good. He's been playing off and on for what, 50 years, 60 years, 60 years.
No, I don't know, 50 years.
Yeah, you're like, don't date me that bad, son. So back to the news. The Chiefs want to be a permanent fixture on the Netflix Christmas Day games, much like the Lions and the Cowboys are kind of solidified into their Thanksgiving spots. Are you up for this? Do you think this is good? I mean, last year it was fine. You go back 2 years ago against the Raiders, and it looked like the Chiefs definitely didn't want to be playing and didn't want to be away from their families on Christmas Day. That to me was the worst Chiefs performance, well, outside of the Super Bowl, of the last 2 seasons. Do you want the Chiefs on Christmas every year?
No. I think it's hard on their families. I think it's hard on the players. And as a fan, it's somewhat cumbersome. If you've got little kids, I have grandchildren, I have children. It makes you torn. Do you want to go see your grandchildren, or do you want to go see the Chiefs? Well, I probably would pick those 3 grandchildren I have, but it's awkward. And I think to have one team do it is a significant contribution.
I hear you. And you are a season ticket holder. You love being live in attendance at Arrowhead, but 95%, that's probably lowballing it. People who watch football are not in the stadium. And my counter argument there, since you're going to take the argument of they shouldn't want this, is that the Cowboys, this is one of the things that allowed the Cowboys to be America's team. The getting the FaceTime on a day where people who don't normally watch football. So if Netflix is going to have someone like Beyonce do the halftime show every year and make a big spectacle out of Christmas, and the Chiefs want to be the marquee franchise of the entire league, this is the place to do it. The biggest holiday on the biggest platform in media, Netflix. If they show up to play on those days, I'm all for it, because I think it's good for the brand. It's good for the franchise.
I think it's hard on the fans. Not everybody has Netflix.
Well, most people at this point have Netflix. So,
well,
but we'll see what happens.
We really want to build the brand, or we want to have a winning culture that goes to Super Bowl. And it seems to me Dallas is happy that they get a lot of notoriety whether they win or lose. Chief fans, we want to win. We had 50 years of mediocrity. Forget it.
I understand, but I don't think those two things are mutually exclusive. Just because Jerry Jones is an egomaniac and a cheap ass and cares more about the star than the Super Bowl doesn't mean that has to be the same approach in Kansas City. And one could argue that making more money and becoming, generating more revenue could encourage Clark Hunt to be more aggressive, spending around the salary cap and things like that. So again, I don't think those two things are mutually exclusive. We'll see if the Chiefs get locked into that Christmas Day slot or not. I have a feeling Netflix, given what they're paying for one day a year, is going to definitely want the Chiefs on that day.
Here's the other thing, Adam, as a season ticket holder. I was talking to 4 season ticket holders about an hour ago, and we all mentioned the Chiefs only had one Sunday noon game. They had a Saturday noon game against the Texans, but we had a lot of night games, a lot of Sunday night games, Monday night games, late Sunday games. It's not it's not always conducive to people that have a regular job or travel.
I get you. Personally, I hate the noon games because I want to watch as much of the rest of the league as I can. So give me the red zone channel at noon so I can stay plugged into the rest of the league, and then give the Chiefs that vaunted 4:30 or 3:30 spot. So again, more eyeballs. Most of the nation can see them. I'm not going to complain about the Chiefs having more prime time availability than any of their counterparts. So I do understand that it's maybe a little easier to make it to a noon game and make it back. So I get that point as well. Let's move into our first segment. This is the first time you have ever been part of this segment. It is the return of Hot Take Kingdom. And this week's Hot Take Kingdom is the Chiefs struggle to draft and develop offensive tackles. Welcome to the kingdom. Give him time. He'll be bouncing and doing the little dance before you know it, guys. So for new listeners, Hot Take Kingdom is one of our oldest segments. I did it on the very first show 3 years ago or so with Sterling. And that one was that Chris Jones was a top 5 defensive player in the league. And I think that's aged pretty well. But some of them haven't, some of them have. I throw out a hot take and build a case. John, in this case, not Sterling, John either enters the kingdom or rejects my argument. So, Dad, I'm going to break down this case. Anytime you want to jump in and interrupt me, don't be shy about that. But let's get going here. You ready?
Fire on.
All right, man. Andy Reid and offensive line coach Andy Heck have both been in Kansas City since 2013. The Andys came in together. And since then, here are the offensive tackles they've drafted. In 2013, their very first draft pick with the 101, that's the first pick overall in the draft, Eric Fisher out of Central Michigan. And I'm going to say Eric Fisher was a very good player. I don't want to disparage him or act like he wasn't a good player. He was a very good player. But I don't think you can say that he amounted to what you hope for the first overall pick. He fell short of his draft status. I don't think there's any other way to say it unless you're sugarcoating it.
I disagree. He had a lot of injuries. His first year, they started him at right tackle. He got moved to left tackle his second year. He had chronic back problems. He was pretty dependable. I think in the Super Bowl that they defeated the 49ers, he played pretty well against Boza. So I would say, he had an injury-riddled career, but that doesn't really say that he was not worth the pick. I mean, it was a down year in the NFL.
I mean, a lot of excuses. We could go back and look at that draft. I'm pretty sure J.J. Watt was drafted in that draft. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. I'm trying to remember who was available. I'm not saying he was a disaster or an all-out bust. I'm just saying I think you expected more from him. And you're making excuses for him. And these reasons are somewhat valid. But if we're talking about drafting and developing players after diagnosing who the best guys are, I think we're going to see a trend. And this is the start of that trend. So then there's a 6-year gap where no tackles are drafted. No offensive tackles are drafted by the Kansas City Chiefs. To me, that's a bit of a red flag. Maybe it's just circumstance. Maybe they felt like we have Eric Fisher. We're going to bring in vets. I don't know, but there was a 6-year gap. Maybe there's a little bit of
time out, Adam. Time out.
Man, you're really interrupting a lot, but go ahead.
Hey, the Chiefs have had 3 outstanding left tackles. Jim Tyre, who was there in the 60s and 70s. They had Willie Rolfe in the 80s and 90s, and they had John Alt. So
okay.
Willie Rolfe was on a trade. They did draft John Alt out of Iowa. You remember the draft pick they had, the worst draft pick they ever had in the 90s, out of Michigan.
Trizelle Jenkins?
Yes.
I don't know, man. I mean, when you think about Tyson Jackson and Ryan Sims and Junior Seave, I mean, this is a pretty heated, intense competition for worst draft pick. And again, you're right about that bit of Chiefs history, but none of these were under the Andy Reid regime, where Andy Heck was helping Andy Reid develop these offensive tackles. So there's that 6-year gap. Then in 2020, they finally take a chance on Lucas Niang out of TCU, 96th overall pick in the 3rd round. He probably would have gone up maybe a little bit higher if it wasn't for the checkered injury past. The training staff and the front office took a chance on his medicals. That chance did not pay off. He immediately sat out the COVID year, which, hey, that's totally his right. But when he came back, he couldn't stay on the field. He couldn't get healthy. I think in the 3rd round, you expect those guys to at least be contributors. I mean, you expect Lucas Niang at minimum to be a swing tackle. Would you agree that you have to call him a bust at this point?
Lucas Niang was an injured player out of TCU. His senior year, he got hurt. People projected him to be a 1st-round pick. He was a 3rd-round pick because of his injury history. Then he sits out a year. Then he gets hurt again. I wouldn't say he's a bust. I'd say he was a medical failure. He was injury prone.
Well, when you're talking about Eric Fisher and injuries that can't be predicted because they happen after the draft, I think that's valid. When they know about his medical situation coming in to the draft and they select him anyways, if he doesn't work out for medical reasons, I mean, that's on the Chiefs. That has to be on the Chiefs. They took a chance. It backfired.
They did the same thing on Reed, a right guard. He had a history of pulmonary emboli, and that's why
on Trey Smith.
Trey Smith. Excuse me, Trey Smith. And you know, a lot of these guys have injuries.
I agree with you, but again, I'm establishing a pattern here that's going to be, by the end of this, it's going to be undeniable. 2021, no tackle selected. 2022, Darian Kennard out of Kentucky. I think we picked up this 5th rounder, trading back a few slots to get Sky Moore. 145th pick in the 5th round. Man, he was barely around long enough to have a sandwich. I mean, not 5th round. You can't really expect those guys to definitely hit. But this was not a good pick, correct?
He was an outstanding player at Kentucky. He was all SEC, either 1st or 2nd team, but he was not a tackle. He was a guard. And
a lot of people thought that, but the Chiefs were a little bit stubborn there and thought he might be a tackle, right?
Well, the Chiefs take chances, like all the teams, and sometimes they work out, sometimes they don't.
You know what's really going to sting is that Darian Kennard just won a Super Bowl ring as a member of the Philadelphia Eagles. I shit you not. That hurts a little bit. Moving on to 2023, Wanye Morris out of Oklahoma, the 92nd overall pick in the 3rd round. In my eyes, at this point, I think we've seen enough to say he's clearly nothing more than a reserve swing tackle, which I guess for getting close to pick 100 is fine, but it's not. When you looked at the raw wad of clay Wanye was coming out of Oklahoma, I think a lot of us hoped he might be a starting tackle at some point. What are your feelings on Wanye Morris at this point?
I think that if he's going to make it, he will make it at guard. He does not have the lateral quickness to take care of end rushes. You know, you have to have not only long arms and be a tall physique, you have to have that lateral quickness. He doesn't have it.
Yeah, it just, the Wanye Morris experiment hasn't gone well. And perhaps the next draft pick is an experiment that has even gone worse, and that is 2024 Kingsley Suamataia out of BYU, the 63rd overall pick in the 2nd round. It felt like a great pick, guys, because in a lot of mock drafts, and I think in the mock draft database overall, Kingsley was a consensus top 40 pick, much like Sky Moore. So you think he's raw and he was a project, but coming out of training camp, we felt great. He was a day one starter. The sky was the limit. And then it was just an unmitigated disaster. He wasn't ready. And it looked like not being ready just shot his confidence to the extent now that they're already moving him to guard. But I will say, if he ends up being a starting caliber guard that isn't a weak link in a strong unit, that's fine for a late second round pick. Are you on the same?
I believe he was 20 when he got drafted. He played 3 years at BYU. He's incredibly young. When you're 20 and going in the NFL or 21, a lot of the guys today, because of COVID and being redshirted, are 24, 25, 26. That maturity really helps. And so I think it's way too easy to throw in the towel on him.
Oh, I'm not throwing in the towel. I'm just saying, again, this isn't really about the players or trying to be mean or anything like that. It's that they're moving him to guard, and it's yet another failure to draft and develop an offensive tackle. So,
well, Adam, you're making the only way to get an offensive tackle is to draft him. There's 3 ways, actually. You can trade for him, you can draft him, or you can develop him. And most of the great ones have been developed. They just don't come with, unless you are the guy from USC, Anthony Munoz, who was a great tackle the day he was born.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're picked with the first overall pick, I'm expecting Anthony Munoz. I'm expecting Tony Baselli. Like, I'm sorry, you're a tackle who's picked first overall ahead of quarterbacks. So to summarize here, at best, that's one modest hit in 12 years with 4 failed experiments drafting and developing homegrown offensive tackles, both left and right. All the non-Fisher picks have been Brett Beach. So some of this may be evaluation shortcomings. And also 5 tackles in 12 years is just not enough bites at the apple for perhaps the second most important position in football. I think we agree on the importance of the position. And like you said, you can get a guy through free agency. It's tough. Left tackles don't really hit free agency, as we saw with Ronnie Stanley. They just don't, unless there's something really wrong with them, like Teron Armstead, who can't stay on the field. And you can occasionally trade for one, like we saw with Laramie Tunsil, but it's expensive. And really, at some point, you have to develop these guys. That's what the Philadelphia Eagles did with both of their bookends. The Detroit Lions have drafted and developed their own guys. So I just think with positional scarcity, you have to keep taking swings at these guys. Now, Reed and Heck have been, to their credit, have been excellent at coaching up center and guard. Are we in agreement there?
I would agree.
But I just think they struggle at tackle. So it's a clear trend at this point and a worrisome one. And I will throw this disclaimer in there that part of this is being victim of your own success. They always draft in the late first round. It's really hard to find a starting left tackle there. A lot of the great starting left tackles are outside of the Jordan Mailata lottery ticket that actually worked out, are usually found in the top 10 or 15 picks. And I think that is a big part of this problem. But that said, these guys are getting big bucks to figure out how to protect Patrick Mahomes long-term. And I think on those bookends at the tackle spots, they've been letting him down. John, you've heard my case. Are you coming into the castle or are you staying outside the walls?
I think I'm staying outside.
Okay. Tell me why. Let me know.
I just think there's a great need for left tackle, but it's like quarterback. It's a high, very, very important position, very, very respected. If you look at most drafts, there's 2 or 3 tackles get picked in the first 10, just about at every draft. And when you're drafting 31, 32, you don't have that shot.
Well, I think they've gotten creative figuring it out. And 2 years ago, when they signed Donovan Smith to a contract that looked like it was about $3 million. It may have, with bonuses and incentives, it may have been bigger than that. And he held up, especially in the playoffs. That was a good bet. But we've seen when you don't have a long-term answer at this position, last year, it might have cost them the Super Bowl. It really might have. It really kind of destroyed their season. It took away the nice continuity they had on the offensive line. It makes you wonder. I know a lot of Chiefs fans won't like this, but Orlando Brown Jr. in the past, post Mitchell Schwartz and post Eric Fisher, Orlando Brown Jr. has been the Chiefs' best tackle. I honestly believe that.
I would agree with you on that. And I would say this. I think it's a good thing that Joe Thuney got traded, because now we have no insurance policy. They got to go out and get a left tackle, either by the draft in April, free agency, or through trade. And they know that.
Yeah, they went out and got Jalen Moore, and we'll see if he works out. That was kind of a creative solution that none of us saw coming. I would like them to kind of double down on this position and maybe draft someone again. And I think why I'm hesitant is I'm somewhat like this with defensive line too. There are some positions, certain teams just aren't as good at drafting and developing. And I wonder, I look at FAU and I look at the tackles and I look at Breland Speaks and I'm like, man, maybe drafting guys on the outside isn't really the Chiefs' forte. Is there any merit to that?
I think there is some, but I mean, look at the other people they've had at defensive end in the last couple of years. For example, FAU has been kind of a underwhelming draft pick, but we got a kid out of Michigan and Central Michigan, number 51. You're one of your favorites,
Mike Dana. What's
Mike
wrong with
Dana,
Dana?
and they've developed him. So, and I think the Greek Freak is also. He was like what, 31st pick.
I think he was the 28th pick or something like that. George Karlaftis. Yeah.
He's really, I think, made great strides last year.
He came alive in the playoffs, and I think he salvaged a year that was maybe mildly disappointing, because I think a lot of us were hoping. We saw a little bit of a leap from year 1 to year 2 with George, and we were hoping for a similar leap in year 3. Didn't really see it. The sack numbers were there, but a lot of late sacks, a lot of cleanup sacks, not a super high pass rush win rate, not a ton of pressures. Playing against Chris Jones, you're going to get playing alongside Chris Jones, you're going to get some sacks. So I have to say, drafting edges and developing them and drafting tackles and offensive tackles and developing them for the Chiefs, it makes me nervous. And until I see a trend going the other direction, I'm just going to stay nervous. So 0 for 1 with the old Chief coming into the castle. That's okay. I'll get you next time, Dad. I'll get you next time. All right. Let's move on to our next segment, the Kansas City stock market.
Greed, for lack of a better word, is good.
Fugazi, fugazi, it's a wazi, it's a woozy, it's a fairy dust.
Tell me the difference between stupid and illegal, and I'll have my wife's brother arrested.
I know you love The Wolf of Wall Street, so we got that in there for you.
I love that show. Yeah.
Legendary scene with Matthew McConaughey, right?
Yeah.
Just stole the movie. Okay. What we're going to do here is I'm going to throw out a statement about the Chiefs, and then I'm going to say pump, which is buy, or dump, which is sell. And you have to tell me if you're pumping or dumping. It can be a big pump. It can be a small dump.
Okay.
You can be in the middle. Just tell me where you're at. So,
all right.
This running back class is deeper than the Mariana Trench. So the Chiefs should take advantage and wait until round 3 or later to draft one.
To draft the offensive tackle?
No. Running back. Running back.
It is deep, but I think you can still get a productive player in the 3rd, 4th, or 5th round.
So you're pumping here?
I'm pumping.
I am also pumping as much as the fantasy idea that Ashton Genty, this generational prospect, would kind of slip into the 20s because it's a deep class and everyone has paid free agent running backs in the last couple of years, was a bit of a fantasy. And I think Hampton is also out of reach. And then the kids from Ohio State and Caleb Johnson, they look like they're going to be good players. But I think what's going to happen is, man, I just think there's going to be a little bit of helmet scouting with these Ohio State running backs. And I think once the teams that really want a running back get one in round 1 and 2, and maybe even early round 3, some of these guys are going to slip. And there are a lot of guys that I really like because they're undervalued, but their athleticism, if you look at their relative athletic score, they're at least over like 8.5 out of 10. And they're at least like hints of receiving upside. So
what about the running back from Arizona State?
He's probably going to go a little too high too. And his athleticism, and to be fair, after CEH, after Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I've kind of been in you can be small, you can be slow, but you can't be small and slow. Even though Cam Scadaboo's not small, he's a little bit slow. So slow running backs, but I think he's going to go kind of early too. I think he might go. PFF right now has him in their top 60. So I don't know. He might be gone too early for the Chiefs. So
somebody just made a comment about drafting Neal out of KU. Neal can do a lot of things. He was explosive. I thought he was a very good back for KU. However, at the combine, I believe he ran a 4.66, and that may make him be either a 6th, 7th, or free agent type player. I think he, as much of a great career as he had, the lack of elite speed will often hinder these guys.
I think he's going to get drafted, but I'm interested in a different player from the state of Kansas, and that's DJ Giddens. I like his athletic profile a little bit better. I think he's a guy that could go when the Chiefs pick in the 90s. He could be a 3rd round star. I'm not saying it's Jamal Charles, but you do get those kind of guys occasionally in the 3rd or 4th round who turn into amazing running backs. Just going to throw some other names at you guys. I feel much more in tune with this running back class. I like Virginia Tech's Bracial Tootin. Now, great name, right? Bracial Tootin. It's not DiCaprio Boodle, but it is an all-timer name. Delaware's Marcus Yarns. I think this is my favorite fit for the Jerick McKinnon change of pace receiving back. And if you think about his alma mater, him being a blue hen, well, who else are blue hens? Matt Nagy played quarterback at Delaware, and who was there with him? Brett Beach. So they're probably going to be interested and take a long look at Marcus Yarns. Texas Tech's Taj Brooks is a player I like from Patrick Mahomes' alma mater. And what I like about him is he's the rare rookie that has pass protection availability. Like, he's already a good pass protector and will be pretty much on day one. That's kind of rare for a rookie running back. And rounding this off with just a flyer, Raheem Rocket Sanders from South Carolina. He was more highly touted at one point and has really not become what people thought he would. But
Adam, I like him a lot.
The athleticism is.
He started his career at Arkansas and played there 2 or 3 years. Played at South Carolina. I had the opportunity to scout him both at Arkansas and at South Carolina, and he's a game changer. He can break the long run, and so I'd be interested in picking him in the later rounds. Again, I don't know how well he catches the ball out of the backfield, and with Andy's team right now, we really need somebody that can pass block and catch the ball out of the backfield.
Yeah, those are the 3 things. Can you catch the ball? Are you a dangerous receiver? Both as a receiver and a rusher, can you gain yards over expected? Both with Kareem Hunt and Pacheco, I just feel like they were only getting the minimum of what was there. You know, we need somebody where a 20-yard rush doesn't feel like going to Mars. Because last year it did. It felt impossible. You know, they'd rip off a 12-yard gain. It felt like a miracle. So it looks like we're in alignment there. Let's go on to the next one. The Chiefs should let go of nostalgia and do what's best for the franchise and area. Move to a dome in Kansas. Pump or dump?
Dump.
How big?
The biggest dump you've ever had.
And why? Give me the case, man. Give me the case.
Because they were a wayward franchise in 1963. Kansas City, Missouri opened arms, put them in a municipal auditorium, and then had the guts to build 2 stadiums. So each one of them had, in an era where St. Louis, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, etc., were making these cookie cutter stadiums, Kansas City took the chance, build Arrowhead, build Royals. If you move to Kansas, I know what's going to happen. PSLs, you'll have no more tailgating, and it'll really hurt the economy of Western Missouri. And as I told the governor, we can't lose any more teams. We've lost the Hawks, the Cardinals, the Rams, the Scouts, the Kansas City Kings, and the Kansas City A's. That's a lot of teams to lose in one state. We got to hold on to these teams.
Okay. I'm going to play the devil's advocate here and say, I think we're clinging on to nostalgia a little tight. I am extremely nostalgic about Arrowhead. I grew up in Arrowhead, have a lot of fond memories there, and am super attached to that structure, right? That being said, if you go into SoI here in Los Angeles, it is the Millennium Falcon, and Arrowhead is a Ford Model T. Like, it is so out of date. It's unreal. Even like Lambeau, which is technically like the same thing, has been rebuilt. Even the stadium in Chicago, I would say, if recollection serves me right. I honestly think Patrick Mahomes has the loss in the Super Bowl. That was his first ever loss with a closed roof over his head. He plays really well in domes. We've got 10 years left of Patrick Mahomes. I've lived in both Kansas and Missouri. It's still the same area. If Kansas is going to do more for the Chiefs and the locals and make this a better situation for the football team, and they can host more events and maybe a Super Bowl and all these things, I don't know. I mean, if all Missouri is going to offer is nostalgia, you know, and also you're a season ticket holder. Is that the best area in Kansas City to congregate and get to? And, you know, is it optimally set up?
No, but they need to do some urban development there, I think. You know, when you have a poverty-stricken area or one that's downtrodden, do you remove the only entities that are making money? Here's the other thing. They say the new stadium, if they build it in Kansas, they have to do the infrastructure. It would not be ready till 33 or 34. How old is Patrick going to be then? He'll be pushing 37, right?
33?
That's what the latest data, because they have to build the roads and the infrastructure. And I believe the Royals have first option on the Star Funds.
Right.
Well, and do you want to get rid of tailgating? That is the biggest thing.
I mean, I think you can find a way to keep tailgating. I think they can design a stadium with all the technology we have to specifically be loud to kind of keep that home field advantage. I mean, I don't think the Chiefs franchise is dumb enough where they're not going to think about tailgating and noise as the first two priorities, along with like what's going to benefit the actual on the field product. But I know it's
built a new stadium like they did in Dallas or Arlington, Jerry Jones. It's only for the wealthy. The average person can't afford to go, can't afford to tailgate. And so you get smug fans who only care that they're season ticket holders. They don't care if they win or not.
I don't know that it's going to affect ticket prices that much, honestly, because we're talking about better public funding. I don't know why that's the new stadium is going to be passed on. I mean,
here's the thing. Most of the people, the fans of the Chiefs, aren't just from Kansas City. You got the whole state of Missouri. You got Western Iowa. You got Eastern Nebraska. You've got the whole state of Kansas. You've got Oklahoma, and you got Arkansas. They are truly a regional team. Moving it away from this epicenter is a mistake. It may add another hour to somebody who's driving to Des Moines or Omaha or Little Rock or Oklahoma City or Tulsa or Springfield. That hour may mean a lot. I'm against it. There's nothing wrong with Arrowhead. I mean, the people eat too much at the games anyway. Okay.
What does that have to do with?
Well, you were worried about the concessions. That's what
I'm not worried about the concessions. I mean, anyway, I don't really have a dog in this fight. I'm not local. I was just presenting the other side of the argument. I am neither pump or dump. I am right down the middle. Number 3 here, the third statement is the Chiefs have struggled drafting after pick 30 and should consider trading up into the 20s to get a player with an actual first-round grade. Pump or dump, Dad?
I don't think that's a good idea. I think, yes, when you talk to most NFL people, there are only anywhere from 10 to 15 truly make it and break it number 1 picks, and everybody else has flaws and is not as likely to succeed. I wouldn't trade a bunch of draft picks just to get a left offensive tackle. The Chiefs need quantity. They need quality, but they need quantity. They need somebody to help at D tackle with Chris Jones. They need a possible replacement to Trent McDuffie if he decides to hit the free agent. Yes, they need to rebuild their offensive line. They need to get a left offensive tackle or somebody that can develop. They need to get a running back. They lack of speed in their running game hurt them against Philadelphia. And like it or not, they got to get a backup tight end, another tight end. So yes, I'd be against trading up. I think Brett Veach has done some of his best work in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th rounds.
He has, but he hasn't done some of his best work in around the 30 range, right? That's where he picked Clyde Edwards-Helaire. That's where he picked Felix Anudike-Uzomah. I am the lightest dump possible in this one, only because I don't think this is a very good draft class. But generally, I think, the conventional wisdom is you trade back. You don't trade up, especially in the first round. Well, conventional wisdom does not apply to a situation like the Chiefs, which is anything but conventional because they always draft, always. The Eagles had 1 year where they picked early. The San Francisco 49ers are picking early this year. Never going to happen to the Chiefs, never. So if they want an actual blue chip player and that isn't like a sleeper that actually hits, they're going to have to go up and get them. That's what they're going to have to do. They're going to have to go up and do what they did with Trent McDuffie. Now, I think you don't do that in this draft class because it's not deep enough for a Trent McDuffie to be sitting there at 21. But next year, it might be. And I think the Chiefs have to get creative. It's the same thing that is kind of creating this tackle problem is they just draft so late that it's kind of hard for them to find premium positions. Now, I think they're doing a good job finally with receiver after some missteps with Kadarius Toney and Sky Moore and to some extent McCole Hardman.
Cadaverous Toney, you mean?
Cadaverous Toney, that's right. But with Rashee Rice, and they even traded up a little bit with Xavier Worthy, and I'm okay with the mini trade up. I'm okay with trading up 2 or 3 spots. The problem with trading back, if you're the Chiefs, you have to find somebody that's willing to trade up in this draft class. And also you have to find somebody who's willing to trade with the Chiefs. And I think that's progressively getting harder and harder. So I think we're in alignment here, but in a deeper draft class, I would actually be for the Chiefs trading up for the right guy. Last one here. If I don't know why I wrote down Jeremy Maclin. I mean, Mizzou is on the brain. If Luther Burden is still on the board at 31, the Chiefs should pull the trigger and finalize their young receiving room. Pump or dump, Dad?
Dump.
Ooh. Okay. Give me.
Well, I like Luther. I think he's been a big addition to MU's success the last 2 years. But number one, they have bigger needs at D tackle and offensive tackle. Number two, Luther is still not adept. I don't think he's a finished product. He's a junior, doesn't run good routes. Some people think he takes plays off. He's more like Deebo Samuel than a slot receiver or a X receiver. I like Luther. This draft is not very deep in wide receivers. I think they have bigger needs.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you there. I like Luther Burden. Here's my problem with Luther. You're a Mizzou fan. He was a primarily slot receiver during his time in Columbia. That's an issue, guys, because Rashee Rice is a power slot. I mean, he is the kind of player like a Cooper Kupp or an Amon-Ra St. Brown that just needs to be in the slot to be able to take advantage of how quickly he gets the ball in his hands and gets upfield with that short burst he has. And then even Xavier Worthy last year, he started to really hit and really improve when they kind of put him in the slot more and manufactured touches for him. So I think what they actually need is more of an outside ball winner, guy who can more consistently beat man. And Luther Burden can beat man better than some of these guys in this class, but he's not. I think some people comp him to DJ Moore. I'm not sure I'm all the way there, and I just don't think stylistically he's a good fit for Xavier Worthy and Rashee Rice. I would like to see maybe a Nico Collins type as the third receiver there. But I'm also dumping here. Bonus question. Philosophically, I think the Chiefs should draft a wide receiver in the first three rounds every single year. Here's the reason. And people are going to say, well, I think edge is more important. I think tackle is more important. Well, that's why you do this, because if you keep wide receiver cost controlled and you never have to pay a wide receiver $30 million, because guys, there's a surplus at wide receiver. There's not a surplus at tackle. There's not a surplus at edge. So you want to save that money to either sign one, re-sign one, or trade for one. And I think they're good enough at drafting wide receivers that when Rashee's contract is up, you let him walk. When Xavier's contract is up, you let him walk. You just keep the Pittsburgh Steelers have had great success with this for the most part for like 2 decades now, the entire Mike Tomlin era. Are you on board with this strategy?
No, I'm not.
What?
First of all, when you say that Mike Tomlin and the Steelers have had success,
they won 2 Super Bowls.
They've not been to a Super Bowl under Mike Tomlin.
What?
Yes,
they have. Yes, they have. What are you talking about? You're
how many years ago?
You're completely. Yeah, I mean, I think it was like 2011 or 2012 or 2010 or something like that. But they've consistently been good, and just because their quarterback, deteriorated, and also let's not lose sight of this is like being them being the Bengals or something, they're playing with Peyton Manning and playing with Tom Brady in the AFC. It was rough, man. I mean, Phillip Rivers wasn't even a top 3 quarterback in his conference during that time. It was rough. I just think this is a top 4 most important position in football, and it's the easiest to draft and develop. So the Chiefs have clearly said that they've demonstrated that they don't like to spend a lot of money at receiver. And I think the same can be said about the secondary, which makes me sometimes I think they're going to sign Trent McDuffie, but the fact that 2 guys from his class got re-signed and he didn't, I'm a little bit like, are they going to walk from Trent McDuffie?
I see your philosophy about wide receivers, but I would go even further. Any position who is a highly sought after, has a high cap hit, left tackle, corner, maybe a top running back or quarterback. Yes. I mean, we all think Mahomes is going to.
I don't know if I'd throw running back in the premium positions mix. I mean, I guess you're talking Saquon Barkley or something, but
right. But the point is, I don't think you should say Sky Moore was a disaster of a pick.
Yeah, but
Steve Rice was a gamble. And last year, if he hadn't got injured, he was going to be suspended for 4 to 6 weeks.
Well, that happens. I mean,
no, it was truly a gamble. He had character issues at SMU, and just drafting somebody because he's a wide receiver, you've got 22 positions to fill. I think that's very, very nearsighted.
It's not nearsighted. It's not nearsighted. You're doing this so you can spend on the rest of the roster. So if you're talking about running backs, we're talking surplus value. If you draft even like Ashton Genty, I mean, how much money are you saving? If you draft a receiver and he play like Jamar Chase, his extension is 10 times what he was getting paid as a rookie. That is the kind of savings you want with your first 3 rounds. And I applaud the Chiefs. Generally, they pick athletic guys, young guys, and they stick in these early rounds. They stick with edge, wide receiver, corner, and offensive tackle. And you saw them with Creed Humphrey and Nick Bolton break from that a little bit. In round 1, the only time they've broken from that is Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and that was honestly the worst pick of the Veach regime. So
no. Spears was much worse.
Speaks. No Marcus Spears slander.
No, I'm talking about Braylon Speaks was a much worse pick.
I don't know.
Helaire actually had 100-yard rushing against Buffalo. I'm not sure Braylon Speaks played more than 8 snaps in any game his first year.
Well, agree to disagree. But what we can agree is that they're both egregious draft picks that I think all Chiefs fans and Brett Veach, would like to do the Men in Black, like mind eraser thing on. Guys, that's all we've got for you today on this Wacky Wednesday. Thanks to the chat. You guys always bring it. If you dig Arrowhead Addict, here's how you can help our community grow. Subscribe here on YouTube. If you haven't yet, what are you doing? And if you're an audio listener, either on Spotify or particularly Apple, give us a 5-star review over there, and leave us a question on Apple. On Thursdays, the OG Hour with either me and Patrick Allen or Matt Verderam and Patrick Allen, we will answer that question. So go ahead and do that. And lastly, check out the mothership, arrowheadaddict.com. Matt Connor, Price Carter, the whole gang over there is bringing it every day. They're going to get you prepped for the draft here in a matter of weeks. Join us live next Wednesday at 5 p.m. Central, right here on the Arrowhead Addict channel. Until then, go Chiefs.
Chiefs.